Good morning, everyone. It's a beautiful sunny day here in Queensland. I get asked a lot of questions about how I started my journey when I first came in Australia. So I thought I will take you through like a walk when I first came and where I first lived and where I first worked. So going back to 2007, my first job was here in Hervey Bay in Australia. And that actually was my first accommodation. So I arrived here on the 31st of December 2007. So New Year's Eve, and that was the first unit I stayed in. I think my rental back then was around $250 a week, fully furnished, which is impossible now, right? So I want to walk you through my area there, because I remember on my first night when I came here, I have these memories where most of the places were shut for some reasons, I'm not sure why. And my first meal, I walked from that street to the left to Red Rooster. That was my first meal.
Really?
Yeah, with a chicken sandwich.
Chicken sandwich.
I can't remember the details of it.
Had you ever had Red Rooster before?
No, it was my first one. But then I was in a very, very tight budget. So that was the first and last time I had takeaway for a while. Yeah, I mean, this area was completely different back then. Especially there was a lot of other things that you can buy from there. So back to the beginning, how everything started. So just a background, I was born in Egypt, and that's where I grew up and went to university and studied there as well. So when I was 25, that's when I graduated and decided it's time to, I graduated when I was 22 actually. So then I decided to move to Australia, did all my exams, and I moved here when I was 25. Probably some of the memories I remember when I first moved here, I didn't have a lot of funds, so I had to borrow a lot of money from my parents. They support me a lot by lending me some money. And when I landed here, probably I had like $500 cash in my pocket. I didn't have a bank account. And the agency that gave me the working visa back then, they gave me like $2,000 to spend in the first few months just to settle. Because my paycheck didn't come until after like maybe I think a month and a half when I started working. So I had to be on a very, very tight budget for the first probably 6 to 8 months. And one of the memories I remember, I woke up in the morning and I had to walk to the practice. The practice only, my first job, maybe 5 minutes away. And it was January, and the rain was heavy rain. Everything was wet, the streets were wet. And I didn't want to call the practice owner to tell them, can you pick me up on the first day of work? And I didn't have a car, I didn't want to pay for a taxi, and I wasn't sure what to do. And I came up with a stupid idea of wearing swimmers, nothing on top, just thongs, and had a waterproof bag. I didn't have an umbrella, and I would walk and get changed there. And I was walking my first day of my job, wearing thongs and swimmers, completely wet. Walked into my practice, and the owner saw me on that day.
You were walking on this main road here?
Here, first day of my job, was nothing except my swimmers, completely wet. And I had hair back then. So
And you had hair?
I had hair, but I didn't have a beard, so it was upside down. And I had to walk straight to the toilets there so I can get changed. I had a towel as well, so I dried myself, got changed. And yeah, you gotta do what you gotta do to survive sometimes.
What did they say when they saw you?
There was like unspoken language. No one said anything. I didn't say anything. We all pretended it didn't happen. I think no one ever mentioned it again actually. So I don't know, they didn't know who this guy is. And even I remember the owner, her name was Sharina, a very lovely lady. But when she first hired me, she told me by email that she had a bad experience with a previous dentist and she really scared of getting a dentist from overseas. And I was really walking into the practice and I was like, not sure if they're gonna like me or not. And I remember, even in the first few weeks, every day I'm walking from here to the practice, when you get this sick feeling from, like you feel you want to throw up. So
yes,
I had this butterfly. Yeah, it just was the most annoying feeling. I think I was probably worried, first time I would be working on patients, other than when I did my exams, from a different country. They have a different culture, different accent, different sense of humor. And you always worry, are they gonna like you or not? Will you be accepted? Will they give you a hard time? What if you do any problems with them? I know, it's just the idea of getting accepted in a foreign country was so scary. And every day I go to work and I have this sick feeling that I just want to throw up. But, I think what worked well is patients were okay, like didn't give much hard time. Some were very funny. Back then we were talking about 2007, and that was a time where for any Middle Eastern it wasn't fun. Like, everyone looked at you as like a bit cautious, like, everything that happened in the world and the media back then, it wasn't the best place to be. But patients were friendly enough. The staff were really friendly. Sharina had almost her DAs were 40 plus or 50 plus. They were all like more mature women. I was only 25, so they took me under the wing like their son in a way. So they were always cooking meals for me. They always bringing lunch for me. When a patient says something I don't understand, because the accent was so different, it was very hard for me to pick it up. They will step in and explain it. If I'm talking and patient switching off, my accent was very, very bad. It was very thick. They will step in and try to help as well. So we had a very nice group of staff that were supportive. And this place there, actually, you might not see it much, but that was a cafe there. It used to be called Shatters by the Bay. I don't know if anyone remember it.
I don't.
It's a very popular cafe for lunch time. So I remember sometimes if I have a little bit of money, I would buy lunch from here.
As a little treat.
Yeah. But speaking of money, so I was on a very tight budget, which means I didn't have a car for the first 6 months. I was walking everywhere. I would walk to Harvey Norman. I would walk to the marina. I would walk anywhere. We had a local dentist that used to visit. He had a bike. Sometimes he would leave it for me.
Yeah, I was going to say, get a bike.
No, he was just being nice to me. I was in a very tight budget.
Yeah.
Like I remember I had maybe, I'll be honest, other than rental and basic stuff, I had like $10 to spend every day on food.
Yeah.
So I can just pay off my debt and just move on to the next phase, basically. I would buy, I don't know if they still have home brands in Woolworths or not.
Yeah.
They do, yeah. So I would buy everything home brand. So one day, I remember these stories because I was like, had a good week, so maybe I will get myself a treat. There used to be on Main Street pizza shop called Eagle Boys Pizza.
Yes,
you remember
the
it?
best.
Yeah. So I thought, okay, I'll go and get Eagle Boys Pizza. And I ordered the pizza. It was cheap Tuesday or something. Maybe $6, $5. I can't remember exact figure. So I bought the pizza. It was at night time. I walked to my unit, really excited. And back then, of course, I opened the pizza and I did the wrong order. So I think it had bacon or something. I couldn't eat bacon, right? I was like, damn. And to punish myself, I got the 80 cent home brand noodles. And that was my dinner. And I had to give this to my neighbor, like, hey, enjoy this pizza. And they were probably suspicious. Why a Middle Eastern gives them a pizza at night? But they took it anyway.
Oh no.
But yeah, everything went really well with the first job, and I will show you around where the practice is. So this area was all grass. There was no big W here. So when you walk off the main street, that was all just a big grassy area. There was only like a small halva place, like a Coles and another few shops there. But all of this was empty, just an empty land. And I used to go to walk through the grass to the practice to shortcut it. But of course, when it was raining, I was trying to avoid that on that day. But one of the things that I used to do there as well is I would work Monday to Friday, and if I managed to save some money, I would spending all my money on courses. So I was doing a lot of training in especially orthodontics and implants and other topics. And the place to go to was always Sydney back then. So I remember I was doing a course with an orthodontist. His name is Derek Mahoney. So he runs like a 3-year program. So we fly nearly every weekend. So of course it was on Saturday and Sunday. So what I will do, I will work Monday to Friday, finish work on Friday, take a flight from the airport to Sydney airport, and to save some money I will stay in Formula One motel in the airport. Do they still have Formula One, or they have a different name now?
Oh, it's probably a different name.
Different name. I think it was like $40 a night back then.
Wow, yeah.
$40 a night. And my meal would be, they had like a freezer thing, like a vending machine. I'll get the McCain meal.
Yes.
Like maybe $3 or something. Microwave it, and that would be my dinner for the first night. And luckily the course was in Muscat, which is a walking distance from the airport and from the motel as well. So airport to motel, 25-minute walk. I will sleep, wake up Saturday, skip breakfast. Now I intermittent fast, but I can afford to have breakfast. But back then, I would skip it. It was forced intermittent fasting. I would skip breakfast, then walk the half an hour to the training center that he had. I would try to eat the free biscuits that they have there. That would be my breakfast. And sorry, Derek, to hear that, but when it comes to lunchtime, I will double up on lunch. I usually have like a big meal so I can try to avoid having a big dinner later on. Then I would finish the course at night, McCain meal, sleep, Sunday repeat, then sleep Monday morning, fly back, start work straight away.
On
Then
Monday
continue,
morning.
yeah, then continue Friday, repeat, and so on. So
Wow.
sometimes the working and studying was like 7 days on 7 days, continuous 7 days.
Yeah, so you're still doing that even though you finished your degree.
Yeah, I mean, the only ways to, if you want to survive, you'll have to keep training and training. Because I always wanted to be not just a general dentist who does like everything basic. I just wanted to, do something different with my patients, offer them extra value. Feel like to fit in, you have to be, patients have to come to you and feel there is something special about you. Because especially if you're coming from a different country, you look very ethnic, your accent's very thick, you have to offer another edge that no one else can offer so you can just survive, just to keep your book even and your patients satisfied with your service. But that was how we used to do it back then as well. I know there's a lot of talk now about work and life balance, but in my time, and I'm not that old, probably I hope, but in my generation, we didn't have that. We were just like 7 days a week, late nights, and we just keep going and keep going and keep going. We don't stop. And I think that's probably gave us a bit of thick skin, and you can withstand a lot of things this way. Yeah. So this place was completely, there was nothing there. It's all grass, and the practice will be on the corner there, next to Centrelink, the famous Centrelink office. Okay.
I don't even think I lived in Hervey Bay when there was just grass.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm more local than you then. So now we are coming close to the practice. So it's right on the corner of Hunter Street and Turkey Road. This is the Centrelink office, and we're right next to it there. So the RSL has always been in that area. Probably, I'm not sure when it was built, but the practice was built in 1981. So it has been there for over nearly 40 plus years now. So it had different generations of owners. When I came in 2007, the owner, her name was Shrina. Shrina was the practice manager of the previous owner. His name was Denver Maloney. He was a dentist, I believe, an Australian dentist, but from Colombian heritage, South American heritage. And what I understood, I think he's still practicing in Australia somewhere, but what I understood when I took over, especially when I heard from patients and from Shrina, that he was a very good dentist. He was very charming. Patients loved him. He had a way with patients. And I was supposed to fill in his shoes. That added even more pressure. I looked at his photo. He looked like, South American.
Yep.
Looked like a handsome guy in his 40s back then. Mature, experienced. He knows how to speak, knows how to talk. Graduated from Sydney, so he's like, he knows how to do good dentistry and also talk to patients.
Yeah.
And that was a big challenge to try to fill that shoes, but thought I will give it a go and try. And it was really interesting time. But what I understood about Denver, he had many practice around, or many business around the area. He was one of the only few first dentists in Hervey who was driving like a sport car, and all other dentists were like really jealous of him somehow as well. But anyway, he had to leave the country for some reason, or he had to sell, and she ended up buying the practice from him, which wasn't very common back then, that a practice manager or someone who doesn't have a dental degree will own a practice. Now it's more common or more acceptable, but back then it was something new, and I think it was very brave of Sharina to do something like that.
Yeah.
Stepping out of her comfort zone and doing something. I think I have a lot of respect to that she took a step like that. And when I first came, it was myself, was another dentist in the practice, and we worked together really well for probably a year and a half. We managed to grow the practice. We managed to add more services to the practice that were not there. We added dental implants, we added Invisalign, orthodontics that no one was offering back then in this area as well. We really had a good probably year and a half working together. I think I will show you this out. So there are like 3 rooms. because we have left the premises now, and I will tell you how we managed to buy the practice and so on. But my first room was actually this room. So that's where, so there's 1, 2, 3 rooms, and that was my first room when I first came. My first job started right there in this room. And I'll show you the front door. I don't have the key because the lease is ending, and we evacuated the premises because we moved to the new place now. When I first worked here, it used to be called Pearly Whites. And before Pearly Whites was Australia Smile, when Denver Maloney owns the practice. So Australia Smile and Pearly Whites, then she changed the name to Premier Dental Studio, and then when I bought it from her later on, it was Fraser Shores Family Dental. So yeah, my first job here was Serena. So I'll give you a story. So I worked here for around 8.5. When I first started, we had 3 chairs, but we're only operating on 2 chairs with a locum coming. And I think we worked really well together. They looked after me, I looked after them very well. And after 1.5 years, I approached Serena and said, hey, I thought the natural transition of being associate is to eventually own your own practice. So I asked her, I want more autonomy in running the practice. Are you open for me to buy your practice? And she's like, yeah, I'm open to the idea, but the price was too high. I think probably over $1 million, something like that. I was like, I cannot afford that now.
And how old were you at this time?
I was probably 27, 28.
Oh wow,
yeah,
okay, yeah.
Around the age. Then I told her, all right, I don't think I can afford this now. Then I decided, okay, maybe it's time for me to get out of Hervey Bay. I'll go to Brisbane, I'll go to another place and work harder. Maybe come back later and look into this option again. So I looked into different offers and I got a job in Brisbane. And this practice in Brisbane doesn't exist anymore. So, and the owner still exists, he still have another practice. But the issue back then, I had an interview with him and what is the song? Offer me the world and I fell for it, right? Yeah, so he said, whatever procedure you're doing, you're gonna do even more complex treatments. I have a lot of complex cases I cannot even start, and your dentistry will go to a whole different level. And I broke my lease. I had a rental here. It was really hard to get someone to fill in your rental. It was very cheap. I broke my lease, went to Brisbane, started this job, started a new rental there as well. But the job wasn't good. Like, there was no patients basically. He was just a solo practitioner. He sold to a corporate and he had to meet a certain target or he won't get paid for the practice. And he was just trying to hire anyone to do any treatment. So it was completely empty. He would take patients from my group into his group, even if I planned them. It wasn't a good experience. But in Brisbane, I was working in 4 different practices, like 2 days, 2 days, 1 day, 1 day. Some days I will wake up in the morning and I have to remember which practice I'm going to. So it was really hard. And finance was going down and I was paying 2 rents in the same time and I wasn't making enough. Books were empty in most of the practices. I was just getting whatever. There is one practice in particular that was really very good to work in, and it's not there anymore. The owner was Paul Close, and he's retired now. It's one of the best practices I've ever worked in, and that practice in particular inspired me again to buy a practice, because the way it was managed, the way it was run, all the team were working. The culture was really amazing. Like the practice manager, the team, the staff, the hygienist, the dentist, they all seemed like having fun the whole time. And he was really easygoing. He was probably 40 plus years experience, very approachable, very easygoing, very nice to speak to. In the same time, I was working other practices where I learned from them what not to do, yes. Right? There is one particular practice that doesn't exist anymore in Stafford. The owner was the hygienist and the practice manager. They both own the practice from a previous dentist. I swear to you, I'm not kidding. The owner, the hygienist, the practice manager, and the associate dentist would stand in the front door smoking a cigarette between patients. And patients will walk in, smoke a cigarette with them. That is the culture in the practice, completely different to the other practice in Clayfield, which is 20 minutes away. Completely different. So you kind of and of course everything was downhill, infection control wasn't up to scratch, finance, accounting, patient management.
Yeah.
It just was a horrible place to work in. But you learn what not to do and what to do.
Yeah.
But through this period, what I decided after that is, I decided, okay, I have to get out of Brisbane. I wasn't making much, I wasn't seeing enough patients, and I went to Mackay. up north Queensland. So I got a job in 300 miles, 17 chair practice.
Wow.
They bought a calls and transfer calls into a dental practice. Massive
awesome.
team, massive practice. But I learned a lot from this practice, to be honest. I stayed there for 6 months. And yeah, I was paying 3 rents this time. So 1 rent here, 1 rent in Brisbane, and 1 rent in Mackay. And in Mackay, I didn't buy furniture. I was sleeping. I had. You can buy this foamy thing that you can roll it, right?
You're taking like camping and
Yeah.
yeah.
That was my bed for the 6 months there.
Oh, you
So I had it. I had a bed sheet and a pillow and a blanket. Mackay, yes, but the aircon has to be very cold.
I was gonna say it's pretty
You
hot.
have to
You'd
put
be
it very
hot.
cold. And that was my my furniture for a while, until I eventually managed to share accommodation and so on. And I have friends who can prove that because they visited me and saw that. Anyway, then after that, I decided it's time to open my own practice. I looked at a lot of different practices, but I decided the best approach for me was to open a practice from scratch. And that's when I opened Lakeside Dental Spa back in 2010. And probably I will show you, we'll probably pause now and we'll drive, and then I will show you around the practice there and give you a bit of history about this practice.